Congratulations so far to the winners who've received their checks and medals. We'll have more prize presentation coming up after the short break, as well as perhaps more interviews with some of the other winners in the other categories. Welcome back, and you are looking at views of the majestic Padang, and of course in the background the majestic Marina Bay Sands and Theatres by the Bay. And we spoke very little, Steve, about the iconic landmarks of this course, the Marina Bay Sands, for example. It's just been a huge part of a lot of sporting events that we've had in Singapore. The Formula One, of course, running over the Esplanade Bridge, past Marina Bay Sands onto the Anderson Bridge, and the Theatres by the Bay. I mean, all these iconic landmarks have added to the flavour of this marathon, Singapore Marathon.
And I think that's what makes events like this grow. It's a bit like you go to London, you expect to see Big Ben, you expect to see the River Thames, you expect to see the Tower of London. Go to New York, a little bit different. Actually, what New York, it's about the areas. Brooklyn's different. You go through Queens, you go into the Bronx, and then Central Park is a big part of it. So that's what people like. They want to come and experience the city, and the beautiful buildings and things they've maybe read about or seen on TV, and think, oh wow, that looks great. I'll go there next year for my my next trip abroad, whatever. And as you said, over 4,000 people here have travelled from all over the world just to come and be here in Singapore for this event.
Now, of course, one of the charities that some of the runners have been running for in this year's Standard Chartered Marathon Singapore was for the visually impaired. And standing by with Sonia right now is one of the runners who has braved his condition and made the best of it.
Now I'm here with Kai Yong. Kai Yong, which marathon did you run today?
Hey, I was in the Ikedan run. Yeah. The run is basically like 6 of us, we form a team, and then we had to complete 42.1 something km. Yeah.
How did you feel the race? How was the race for you today?
The run was good because I got to form up with all my track mates from my poly, and we really just kept each other in mind while we were running. So it was a very fun experience, and it's my first time down for the Ikedan run actually. So yeah, I really liked it. Yeah.
That's great. Now, will you be taking part next year as well?
Yeah, definitely. We were saying we have to come back next year, because this year, right, we actually got 4, which is one less than 3. So yeah, next year we'll definitely try and come to fight for the top 3. Yeah.
That sounds great. I think 4th is also very, very impressive. And thank you, Kai Yong, for joining us.
All right, thanks. Thank you.
Well, it meant I was awake for this.
As we were saying, Vanessa speaking to one of the visually impaired runners there, we saw a report earlier in our show about some of the Standard Chartered staff volunteering to run with the visually impaired. And we've spoken a lot about the charities, and a lot of what the running here at the Standard Chartered Marathon in Singapore and a lot of marathon is about charities, isn't it?
It is. It wasn't to begin with, but then I think charities understood the link between someone having a challenge. I'll run a marathon, or why should I do that? Because it's very easy to kind of, my training's not going well, I'll drop out. But if you've committed to a cause, and particularly if it's a cause that's personal to you, if it's, a lot of the big charities obviously are then able to get people to go and run for them, and it's brilliant. Hundreds of millions of pounds have been raised around the world in events like this, which I think is great. But also the other thing, you're talking about the people who help. None of these events, the Olympics showed us, they don't take part without volunteers. It's not just people who run, we need all the other people to make the thing work as well. So for the charities, it's a massive day.
Absolutely. And I did mention the fact that the success of this event is down to the volunteers. We have about 4,000 volunteers. So as much as we need the event sponsors and the co-sponsors to come in, we very much rely on the participation of the volunteers, and the flavor of the event is also added by people in costumes. And one of the things that was featured in this year's marathon was the festive cheer, and how the Singapore Sports Council had added more festive cheer down throughout this course?
It's all adding to the sense of occasion. As I said, I mentioned the Olympics, the Paralympics, 70,000 volunteers, and most people who've been talking about it in the months since have said, oh, those, they made the games. We call them our games makers. And you've got your games makers here, if you like. They're the people who, without whom, give up their time, give up their energy, some of them for weeks beforehand, but particularly today, this would not happen. So I think all the runners appreciate that. At the water stations, the people who are you're entertaining them en route or just helping at the end here. They're all part of the event.
All right, I think we're ready for more prize presentations. Let's take you to the stage now.
Now, of course, lots of entertainment going around right here at the Padang area, and you'll notice that we've got some Christmas trees up as well. I think this is really the first time. I've been to a couple of Standard Chartered marathons as a host, as a runner, but this is probably the first time that you actually get to see, you know, a festive theme to the Standard Chartered Marathon. This, of course, being the marquee race event of the year. It's something a lot of Singaporeans look forward to. It's something a lot of worldwide runners look forward to. It's of course organized by the Singapore Sports Council, Standard Chartered Marathon, Singapore's marquee running event. It's one of the highlights of our local sports calendar, and I tell you, we've got a packed sports calendar every year. Now, it of course features 3 different races. You've been to most of them, or one or the other of them. The full marathon, 42 kilometers, 0.195. The half marathon, as well as the 10K race. And the best part about the Standard Chartered Marathon Singapore is it provides a scenic view. You're running around Singapore.
So we're looking at pictures now of the prize presentation for the wheelchair race, and that's the prize for the first runner-up, and winning himself a tidy sum of $1,500.
It's interesting, you know, obviously we spoke to the winner a little earlier on. He's come from Japan to win here today, and this event will grow, and the wheelchair racing will become a major feature of it. And some of our biggest sports stars now in the UK are some of our Paralympians. David Weir, who had a brilliant Olympic Games, Paralympic Games, he's now one of our biggest stars, and Tanni Grey-Thompson, one of our most bemedaled Paralympian until recently. And you know, these marathons and half marathons, the wheelchair events, they start to take it very, very seriously. And I'm sure as the event grows and develops, this section of the day will be something which, you know, we'll start to see some of the world's best wheelchair racers coming here to take part.
We spoke to Jun Hiromichi earlier, and it was interesting that he mentioned that he wants this race to be longer, because right now it's just 10 kilometers.
Yes, and because a lot of the wheelchair racers race the longer distances. They go very quick in the marathon, and they go ahead of the field because of the speed that they go. Using racing bikes as well. I noticed that Ewan's bike isn't obviously the way he had the presentation. That wasn't his racing bike. His time there, 23 is pretty good, but I think if you had a lot of the top people in here, it would be even quicker, because the roads here are good, surface is good, it's a flat course. The wheelchair racers would love to come here.
Absolutely. He did say that he was hoping that they would continue with the wheelchair racing, and when asked what distance he would like to see the wheelchair races advance to, he wants to run a full marathon.
Absolutely.
Are they running full marathons in the wheelchair category anywhere else in the world?
Yeah, all the
full
time.
Marathon.
You know, and that's the most popular part. You know, and they go around in about an hour 40 or something like that.
Wow.
You know, so yeah, exactly. Depends on the course, depends on the inclines, road surface, etc. But yes, I mean, that's something which you've got to set the wheelchair athletes off beforehand, particularly the elite ones. You can have the non-elite ones in with the main event, but the elite ones need to go away because they're going so fast. You can't have them in with the rest of the field. Yeah,
and you know, since I have you here, it just occurred to me, because you had mentioned a little bit earlier about the London Olympics, and it was a very successful London Olympics that you had. We saw a surprise winner, a Ugandan winner in the marathon edition. And when I say surprise, because he beat out 2 Kenyans and the favorite Wilson Kipsang.
Yeah, you know, I think I said when we talked about the race earlier on today, the Olympic marathon, World Championship marathon, isn't a paced race. It's not a big city event. There's no prize money. So not everybody aims for it, but the great thing about the Olympics, which I like now, is the top guys are coming, but he wasn't one of the big favourites. Good athlete, but just had the race of his life on that day, and we'll remember it for the rest of his life.
Absolutely, and you know, we briefly mentioned this. If I'm going to stay on the topic about the Ugandan, it was interesting because we mentioned this during our broadcast. Kiprotich actually trains with the Kenyans because he doesn't have the facilities in his home country to train as an elite athlete.
Probably a hint why he runs so well. Yeah. But a lot of them do, you know, in that part of Africa, obviously. I mean, Uganda have had some very good, I can remember Boniface Kiprop doing well at the Olympics, at the Commonwealth Games. You know, they've had some good track 5,000, 10,000 metre runners. But his performance there, I think it's their first ever gold medal in the Olympics at the marathon. So I'm pretty sure he's a big star back home now.
And one of the unsung heroes of, well, we always talk about the East Africans running very well, the Kenyans and the Ethiopians. We don't always see Ethiopians win, but we did see an Ethiopian win at the London Olympics in the marathon in the women's. And she came from Bekoji, and Bekoji, it seems, is a hotbed of marathon runners right now.
Well, I think we'll talk about Sticky Galan, had a great race,
yes.
Great gold medal for her, brilliant, but I think we've got another presentation.
All right, let's go.